Hi, and welcome to The 12th Man. Jose Mourinho has previously managed the likes of Chelsea, Inter Milan, Real Madrid, and most recently, Manchester United. Now, he embarks on the challenge of following Pochettino in what some have described as Tottenham's modern golden era, albeit with 0 trophies won. In this video, we'll take a look at how Tottenham could line up under Mourinho, attempting to answer the important questions. Who will make the starting lineup? And will Mourinho be parking that famous bus of his? Before we get into it, I'd like to say this video is my first on the channel. Over the coming months, I'll be regularly analysing the tactics employed by top managers and breaking down the strengths and weaknesses of top Premier League footballers. If you're interested by this sort of thing and want to be the foundation of our community, subscribe now and join the journey. Now let's talk about Mourinho. In order to predict how Mourinho may line up Tottenham, we must look back to his previous roles. Mourinho began his managerial career at Benfica, but it was his Champions League winning side, Porto, that truly grabs the attention of world football. During his tenure, Mourinho often adopted a 4-3-1-2 diamond formation. With this diamond shape, Mourinho's Porto were able to overload the central areas, regularly winning possession through blocking opposition passes. Mourinho generally favoured a mid-block, choosing to allow the opposition to proceed relatively high up the pitch before creating intense pressure in the midsection of the pitch. Once in possession, Porto would look to counter-attack quickly, taking advantage of the opposition's temporary lack of structure. Mourinho's Porto was solid in defence, extremely well drilled and able to carve their opposition apart in moments of transitional play, the time when a team is transitioning between attack and defence and hasn't yet had a chance to reset their structure. Following on from his excellent job at Porto, Mourinho was appointed the Chelsea manager for the 2004-2005 season. During this season, Chelsea won their first Premier League title, accumulating a record for the time of 95 points and conceding just 15 goals. The self-dubbed Special One introduced a new tactical era to Premier League football. Prior to his appointment, the Premier League was dominated by the classic 4-4-2 formation. With Mourinho lining up Chelsea as a 4-3-3, he was able to create an overload in the central midfield areas. As Jose put it himself, "Look, if I have a triangle in midfield, Makelele behind and 2 others just in front, I will always have an advantage against a pure 4-4-2 where the central midfielders are side by side. There is nothing a pure 4-4-2 can do to stop things." After a somewhat controversial end to his time at Chelsea, Mourinho moved on to coach Inter Milan, winning a famous treble, and followed this with his time at Real Madrid, where he led them to a 100-point season, scoring a total of 121 goals. At Inter Milan, he often used a mix of formations in his attempts to nullify the opposition threats. In fact, this is a common theme throughout his career. During this particular time, he regularly adopted a 4-3-3 or 4-3-1-2 formation, similar to his Porto setup, with the fullbacks used to create width when adopting the more narrow 4-3-1-2 setup. With Real Madrid, Mourinho was arguably more consistent with his setup than he has been at any other time in his career, choosing to utilise a 4-2-3-1 system. Here, Xabi Alonso and Sami Khedira were employed as deep-lying midfielders, with the task of breaking up play and quickly shifting the ball forwards to their talented attackers, Di Maria, Ozil, Ronaldo and Benzema. After major arguments with some of Real Madrid's most established players, Mourinho found his Real Madrid career at an end in 2013. After a stint back at Chelsea, Mourinho took on the Goliath task of revitalising a decaying Manchester United who had fallen from grace. Again, Mourinho made use of several different formations. He began with a back 4, but found himself lining up a back 3 or a back 5, depending how you wish to view it, towards the end of his tenure. While highly adaptable, Mourinho has consistently preferred a back 4 throughout his career, and this switch to use an additional centre-half is most likely more of an indictment of the quality or lack thereof, of Manchester United's defensive players at the time. Looking back over his career, it is clear that Mourinho is highly adaptable. He will line his teams up in a formation which he believes brings the best out of his players and effectively nullifies the opposition's strengths. However, even when formations are altered, there are key tenets to his approach that remain consistent throughout. It is through analysing these elements, more so than formations, that we can begin to understand the style of play that Tottenham may adopt. The first common theme, regardless of formation, relates to youth players. While many criticise Mourinho for not promoting youth players, this accusation is only somewhat true. Mourinho does not have an aversion to talented younger players. He is happy to play whoever he believes best fits the team at that time. However, with Mourinho emphasising structure in his teams, it is important that all players remain constantly switched on, as even a momentary lapse in concentration can lead to a player drifting out of his position and allowing space for an opposition attack. Having the maturity to remain 100% switched on from the first minute to the 90th minute is often a skill developed over many years and not commonly seen with youth players. It is for this reason that Mourinho often selects more mature players, happy to overlook the energy and flair brought by a player in their early 20s. Looking at Tottenham's team, Mourinho will most likely love to work with the likes of Harry Kane and Son Heung-min, who are two of the Premier League's hardest working players and are often happy to forego their own desires in order to buy into the collective of the team. Dele Alli, on the other hand, is a player with immense talent, but sometimes lacks the maturity that Mourinho demands. It will be interesting to see if he is willing to knuckle down under Jose, or whether the Portuguese manager will look to alternatives. The second common theme is defensive solidity. During Mourinho's first season at Chelsea, he accumulated that record-breaking 95 points. But you may be surprised to hear that they only scored 72 goals. Arsenal, who trailed by 12 points in second place, actually scored 15 goals more than Chelsea. However, it was Chelsea's incredible defence, which shipped only 15 goals, compared with Arsenal's 36, that ultimately won them the title. Throughout his career, Mourinho's defensive capabilities may be his most famous attribute. Expect no different at Tottenham. Mourinho will look to keep clean sheets first and foremost. In the centre-half positions, Mourinho has the likes of Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Davinson Sanchez and Juan Foyth to choose from. For some managers, the ages of Vertonghen and Alderweireld, 32 and 30 respectively, may convince them to look to more youthful options. As discussed earlier though, Mourinho often prefers maturity over youth and may field the pair together, assuming of course that both buy into the Mourinho philosophy and aren't looking over their shoulders towards outbound transfers. Another note should be made that an Alderweireld transfer was pursued by Jose during his time at Manchester United, a clear indication that Jose thinks highly of him. The third common theme is Mourinho's mid-block and cutting out the passing lanes. In recent years, we've seen the likes of Liverpool, Man City and other teams press very high up the pitch, attempting to create an attacking position by winning the ball on the edge of the opposition area. Klopp has emphasised this, saying, "No playmaker in the world can be as good as a good counter-press." Mourinho, on the other hand, regularly sets his teams up to allow the opposition to travel further up the pitch before pressing. His sides will drop deeper, remaining compact. This restricts the space between the lines for the opposing team to move into. Once Jose's team have invited pressure, they send an attacking player out to hassle the man on the ball. At the same time, the other attackers and midfielders work as a unit, cutting off potential passes. The opposition player must either play the ball backwards towards his goalkeeper, attempt a dangerous pass forwards, or try a long ball over the top. This strategy, using a mid-block and cutting off passing lanes, frustrates teams into choosing the wrong option. At this point, Mourinho's teams will pounce on the loose ball and demonstrate the fourth common theme of his teams: the fast counter-attack. Mourinho often adopts a counter-attacking style of football, with pace up front used to make incisive runs once his team have regained possession. We are likely to see the return of this style of play, particularly during the big matches. The fifth common theme is Jose's proactive nature. Irrespective of any criticism levied at him in recent times, this is an aspect of his management that we must all look at with respect. Many managers are reactive in nature. They set up their team in a tactical profile which they believe will win the match. After 30 minutes, it is clear that their side aren't progressing as well as expected. At this point, nearly all managers will choose to wait until half-time and often later before making any changes. Mourinho, on the other hand, has the ability to recognise the aspects of the game that require altering and the confidence to make early changes in order to change the flow of the game. Let's now look at some of Tottenham's players and ask ourselves who is likely to make the starting lineup. While many YouTube channels and pundits will predict Mourinho's preferred formation for Tottenham, I believe this is a foolhardy approach, given his use of many formations over his career. Instead, I'll focus on specific players and analyse how they tie in with his philosophy of play. Let's begin with the attacking players. With an exemplary attitude and his willingness to buy into a philosophy, the first name on the team sheet will surely be Harry Kane, followed closely by Son Heung-min for the same reasons. Eriksen is also among Tottenham's very best, but whether he plays or not will depend on his mindset. Will he work hard for Jose's team, or is he set on an outbound transfer? Another forward with talent is Dele Alli. However, as referenced earlier, unless he's willing to up his work rate and continue developing as a footballer, Mourinho may look elsewhere to the likes of Lucas Moura. Lo Celso is another option, but his position is highly uncertain given that he hasn't yet settled into English football. In deeper-lying midfield positions, we have competition between Ndombele, Sissoko, Winks, Dyer and Wanyama. Where possible, Mourinho will field a physically strong dynamic midfielder. While Dyer may be physically strong, dynamic he is not. Wanyama has struggled for game time. This leaves competition between Winks, Sissoko and Ndombele. In spite of their youthful ages of 22 and 23 respectively, Ndombele and Winks are already demonstrating maturity and match awareness. As a result, I would expect that Mourinho looks to these two and Sissoko. In the defensive positions, we've already discussed Vertonghen and Alderweireld, so the fullbacks are where the question marks remain. With the likes of Serge Aurier, Danny Rose, Ben Davies and Kyle Walker-Peters to choose from, Mourinho has attacking flair, but lacks defensive consistency. This marks one of the largest tactical changes between Pochettino and Mourinho. Pochettino pushes his fullbacks high up the pitch to assist with attacks, while Mourinho wishes for them to be better defensively, with their attacking capabilities not as important. Whoever Mourinho chooses in these positions, expect regular complaints about them in his post-match interviews and a push for incoming transfers as soon as possible. With his appointment at Tottenham somewhat surprising given that his playing philosophy is very different to Pochettino's, there are several key questions to ask and pay attention to this season. Before we jump into these, I'd like to remind you, if you made it this far in the video, to subscribe for more content just like this. While this is my first video, I plan on making a lot more content over the coming months, and it would be amazing for you to be one of the very first members of the 12th Man community. Let's jump into the questions. The first relates to finance. Mourinho is the first manager in footballing history to spend £1 billion on transfers. Tottenham's chairman, on the other hand, is renowned for his negotiating abilities and refusing to pay over the odds for players. While Daniel Levy may feel that Tottenham are more financially secure with their new stadium built, it will be a surprise to see him write the kind of checks that Mourinho may have in mind. Comment below with your thoughts on how this will play out. Will Mourinho manage to eke every penny out of Daniel Levy? Or instead, will Levy manage to rein in Mourinho's spending? Let me know what you think down below. The second question pertains to the mindset of Mourinho. In his first tenure, Mourinho was arrogant, but also cheeky and known as a strong man manager, often loved by his players. A decade down the line, and Mourinho was cutting a more grumpy figure, frequently arguing with reporters. With charismatic and likeable managers, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola and Frank Lampard leading other top teams, Do we think it's likely that Jose will use mind games again to win back the English press? The third question is about the third season curse. While extremely successful in his first 2 seasons when Mourinho joins a new club, he often falls out with key individuals during his 3rd year, resulting in a collapse of trust and performances on the pitch. Do we think this is likely to happen again? Let me know what you think. The fourth question is, while Klopp, Guardiola, Lampard and other managers are imposing positive philosophies that draw in even neutral fans, Mourinho has been criticised for his negative approach to the game. Will Mourinho adapt to a more attacking style or not? And how will Tottenham fans perceive this, especially after Pochettino's relatively attacking setup? These are important questions and I am keen to hear your thoughts. Comment below to let me know what you think and I will get back to you personally ASAP. Again, thank you so much for watching and don't forget to subscribe.